So we've got the Falcons going up against the Ravens this week. Now the Ravens, very differently constructed team with Jackson as opposed to Joe Flacco. So there's not a lot of tape on them right now. The Falcons don't exactly have the greatest defense, and that's odd because, defense is kind of the thing for their head coach. So I'm expecting the Ravens to do well enough on offense that their defense, being as strong as it is, will carry them to a win. Atlanta does not have an answer for Jackson. They don't have the linebacking core that they need. They do not have the depth of rotational pass rushers that they need to really keep him hemmed in. He's very much the Michael Vick of this generation, except, he's a decent human being off of the field. He can run. He can run faster than most people in the league, and he can move. He can make people miss. With his throwing ability added into the mix, he's extremely dangerous. Now, that's not going to bode well for a long career unless he transitions more to, playing from the pocket and focusing on running an offense and throwing the ball. But right now, when he's got his legs, he's fantastic. So, from a fantasy football perspective, the wide receivers in Baltimore should all be downgraded ridiculously. They weren't that great to begin with, but now and again you can get some really quality starts out of John Brown, being the only deep threat on the team, and teams that have not the greatest depth at corner or safety would be weak to that. That's not a factor anymore. It just isn't. I mean, any throwing from Jackson to the wide receivers is a fluke. It's very much a run-centric team right now and should be, based off of where their talent is. Throwing is going to be just involved to keep the other team off balance, not as the primary weapon. So if you desperately need a receiver and Baltimore's receivers are looking good to you for whatever reason, John Brown's the only one really worth it because he's very much a boom or bust. He's the guy that's going to get you that 70-yard bomb downfield, which Jackson definitely has the arm for. I'm not sure he has the accuracy for, though. It's not good for the receivers. Either way, Alex Collins is a medium kind of play these days because the running is going to be going through Jackson just as much as it's going through him. So he's not so much a running back one anymore. He's more of a running back, he's a flex. I mean, you can't trust the amount of carries that he's going to get at this point. They're focusing on the defense. It's an extremely strong defense. It's better than most defenses that the Atlanta Falcons have gone against. So I would expect Tevin Coleman to do well because he's Tevin Coleman. He's not only a great primary runner, but he's a receiver out of the backfield. So regardless of the game plan for Atlanta, Tevin Coleman's going to be involved in it, and that's going to keep him as a lock to start most weeks. Julio Jones, nobody can guard him one-on-one. No two people can guard that guy. So, yeah, I mean, put him in there. He's a stud, and the reason you draft these guys is even in the bad weeks, they're going to do well. It's the rest of the talent on the team that I'm not quite sure about because of the quality of defense they're going against. So Matt Ryan's probably not going to have a great game. He hasn't strung good games together in a while. Mohamed Sanu and Calvin Ridley really took advantage of the fact that whoever was not in bracket coverage was going to do well last week when they went up against the Saints. So whoever was in the slot was just dominating. They're not necessarily going to be able to do that because the defensive depth for the Ravens is better than it was for the Saints, at least in the secondary. So you're not going to get that, definitely put Sanu or Ridley out there because they're going to dominate whoever they're going against sort of play here. I would say Ridley's the better play than Sanu simply because he's faster and has a higher ceiling than Sanu does. But he's a wide receiver 3 to a flex at best. Sanu, you can find better options than him this week. Matt Ryan's a good play, but he's more of a QB2. You probably have the ability to find better options than him this week as well. From the Ravens' perspective, again, it's really just Lamar Jackson and a flex out of Alex Collins. It's their defense that's going to win this game for them. But since they're going against the Falcons, don't start the Ravens' defense because they're still the Falcons. They're going to score points, just not enough.